Hello humans, and welcome to the Let's Quest podcast, where we dive deep into the wonderful world of board games. Every episode I'll be sitting down with a fellow gamer to explore this awesome hobby of ours. We'll start by chatting through what we've been playing lately, then we'll dig into the topic of the week, and finally we'll open the Game Master's Mailbag. That's where my guest and I try and find you your perfect game. So, grab a drink, take your seat, and let's quest. Okay, and this is episode 6 of the podcast. I'm quite impressed with that. And today we've got Cam on. Hey, Cam.
Hey, Andy.
How's it going? Thanks for joining me. So first off, let's intro the audience to you, Cam, one of my oldest friends.
Can I just interrupt you there, Andy?
Yes.
Not oldest in terms of age, but in terms of length of time I've known you, I would assume.
Yes, tenure. Yeah,
tenure.
Tenure. You are, you're satellite to the sort of core group that I play games with. But whenever we can, we play a game, and whenever we can carve out time. But we live on opposite sides of London, so that can be hard sometimes. But yeah, what's your vibe and your relationship to games as you see it?
I think that's a really good summary. Actually, I love playing board games where I can, but I think time and distance are an issue. Now that comes together, and I think that's part of why I was keen on the theme of today's talk, actually, because it's there are other ways that we can play together. In terms of my relationship, I really enjoy the social aspect of board games. I have a few. I by no means have a collection. I'd say, and the ones I have are kind of I describe them as your high street board games, your big names.
High street board games. You got Wingspan? I know you've got Wingspan.
Well, indeed, a wonderful present of Wingspan from someone very dear to me. That's Andy, to be clear. But I would say those ones that are slightly more niche are being gifted or recommended by you or others, because I'm the Monopoly era of. I know it's a dirty word, and so I'm on a journey with board games, and you've opened my eyes, and we've met up in person both in London at board game cafes and around your house with the rest of the gaggle of gamers, and it's been great. But by no means I would say that I have extensive experience. I spend a lot of my time playing online games with friends. It works for me, but it scratches that social element too.
It's interesting, because when I think about you and board games, a lot of my kind of thoughts, like there's loads of games that I've got that even though I haven't played them with you, I'm like, oh, Cam would love this. And not only because I know you very well, but also because more and more board games relate to video games, right? I mean, there are literally video games that are just board games or card games like Slay the Spire or whatever. But even down to the fact that, we've had conversations about Age of Empires, and, you introduced me to the Civ games years ago and how much you love them. Well, those games are just board games, really. They're just very clever board games doing lots of number crunching in the background, right? But turn-based city builder or whatever is there's definitely, I've got a shelf of them. So, but I think that unfortunately those games are also quite hard to, they're a big time investment there and space investment. They are a big and money investment. You're setting up for the day and you're playing them, and it's hard to kind of, unlike loading a save file on a Civ game that's been 40 hours deep, that's harder to do with a board game.
Harder, and I would have thought impossible. Well, not impossible, because you could just leave the board in place, but who has a sprawling house where you can leave a massive board game out? I certainly don't. But it has been, there was one game that we played together, which was a card game on a map where it had a save function built into it.
Seven Citadel.
Is it that Citadel? One? But it was. I thought, wow, they thought about this, in terms of catering for people that you're not going to be able to sit down for multiple hours on end. Although actually, I do that for virtual gaming. So
yeah, sure.
Why can't I do it for board?
Though, that is definitely a thing now. Save games in board games is all the rage, and they've come up with some amazing mechanics, as in physical components that help you save your game very easily, and it's pretty clever stuff, a lot of it. I've got this game, I'm afraid I will actually have to look up the name of it. What is the name of this game?
Whilst you're thinking, can I come in on something that it's prompted a thought in terms of mechanics? I'm going off script here. I realise this isn't what we're here to talk about, but it's interesting because board games have been around for hundreds of years, and you said earlier how video games are have learnt from and a version of board games, and there are video games or board games, vice versa. It does feel now like some of the benefits that you get from video games are being played back into the mechanics of board games, and that they're kind of nurturing each other in terms of
it definitely feels like that. Yeah, I mean they're definitely kind of playing off of each other. I've talked about it in an previous episode, but the Slay the Spire game obviously started as a digital card game, which was very much inspired by lots of card games, like physical card games. But now it's gone back the other way, and now it's a board game again. It was never a board game or card game originally; it was purely digital, and now they've made a board game of the digital card game, and sort of made it more board gamey. But it's wonderful, and it's so fun to see this video game come to life in your hands, like you're holding the cards that you normally only float there, kind of thing.
What is the definition of a board game?
Good question.
Is a card game it's all in the same space, I suppose, but is a board game very specific? Does it have to have a cardboard-based board?
I'm sure that there's someone who's going to tell me like a rules lawyer out there that would say a very specific determination. But I feel like in my heart, and that's where I will take this from, the board games is the kind of umbrella, right? They're all board games. I suppose you could maybe tabletop games, but tabletop games is the big umbrella term maybe, and then it's board games and card games. Card games inherently don't need anything other than that deck of cards.
Yeah.
But I would argue that they're also, if you said card game to me, then it would bring up lots of thoughts of like deck building and all these things that are kind of, and different LCG living card game formats and things like that. There's a lot. There's quite a loaded term in my mind than just a board game, which is, you can have a board game that is effectively a card game, but but you don't need an expansion pack or a subscription and booster packs and any of that. So but there's so many different games. So I'll go back because I remembered the name of the game. It's Sleeping Gods. We were talking about save files. Sleeping Gods is a game where you're exploring this map. It's got this really cool book with all these like points in there, and I won't get into spoilers of it, but effectively you and your crew find yourself like in this Twilight Zone kind of place, and you're in this boat and you're trying to find your way around and figure out how you've got there. And it's this really cool story with a really good combat system in it, but it's mainly just this exploration, and you've got your crew on the boat and managing them as well. Really fun game. It is basically a video game, but you get to pick up physical things, and it's got this beautiful art in it and everything. And you can save that game, and it's really quick to save it, and you just pop it back in its box, and then you can get it back out. It's so quick to set up and keep playing little snippets of that. I just love it. It's really great. Laura and I play it. It's great.
It's funny when you're saying that. I was thinking I'd go look it up on Steam because it does sound exactly like it. Of course, other storefronts are available, not just Steam.
Of course, yes. So moving on to what we've been playing lately. Funnily enough, I was going to talk about. I just played a game with Matt, the war gamer Matt, who was on an episode before, called Goodknack. Which, funnily enough, they've actually said, thank you. They've said in it that you can pronounce however you want because they made it up, which is great. Really cool little game. It's a fighting game, like a kind of Magic the Gathering style, just card game. But you've got this little player board that makes it a board game. It's got a little board in front of you, and you've got a 20 card deck, and of all your sort of different people and your spells, and then you are basically, it's a mixture between this deck building, then getting those cards and playing them out on this little grid, like a 9x9 grid, I think it is, and you've got to place and move them tactically, use their abilities, but all the time you've only got 20 cards, and that 20 cards is both your people and your health, effectively. So you're, as soon as you start playing, you've lit the fuse on. You're not going to get to redraw up these cards. That once they're gone, they're gone. So you can draw fast and burn bright, but you better beat them, because if they win the war of attrition, then they will just win. Basically, it's really clever.
And like that name evokes images of like orcs and stuff like
that's the vibe.
Is that yeah.
It's a really cool little game, and a good version of like how you can get the sharpness of a card game, the simplicity where you can just, this thing takes seconds to set up, but then you don't need to buy booster packs or any of that. There's no huge cost. The thing cost me like 25 quid, and now I've got it.
It's funny you say that, because it's exactly where computer games are going, right? Like live service, etc. And it's tiring. That's a whole nother subject. But I hadn't appreciated until you said it, how much of a big thing that's become in like card gaming community as well.
Oh my gosh, in card games it's huge. These Magic the Gathering was the first sort of, and the Fab. Apparently to play Flesh and Blood at a competitive level, you're talking like hundreds, if not thousands of pounds to buy a deck, because you have to buy like the cards. There's a whole marketplace, like real marketplace of those cards. Just to get one card, it will cost you a couple of $100 or whatever. So to make a full deck, because they're kind of collectors at the same time. That's a whole place that I don't know much about, but it's crazy how big it is. But yeah, how about you? What have you been playing lately?
Oh, what have I been playing? Well, on the theme of simplicity, actually, Uno. And I strictly haven't. Well, I have been playing it, but I haven't been instigating it. It's my son that's been instigating playing Uno, which has been lovely. And it's one of those games where, this probably says a lot about me, I dismiss it. I'm like, it's so simple. Why would I want to play that? And actually, you really get, it's beautiful in its simplicity, and it's really enjoyable. He's picked up really quickly, and it's just so easy, and everyone loves an Uno reverse card. So
apart from the person who's getting
well, indeed, but
that's brilliant. Love that.
Yeah, and I think it goes to that point, and again, probably the theme of today's discussion. You pick it up, it's instant, it's quick, and you're ready to go. There's no setup other than dealing 5 cards each per player, and then cracking on. And next thing you know, you're a few games in, and you've enjoyed yourself, despite it being really simple.
Really simple, yeah. I think Uno, I haven't actually played that much Uno, weirdly, but whenever I have, it like you say, love that you can just pick it up and play. You can basically play it with anyone, even if someone who's got no interest in really playing games, they can just sort of start, and you're like, you'll get it in a minute, don't worry about it. It's got those fun moments of tension of like, oh, you didn't say Uno, and and the Uno reverse, blah blah blah, and you can spin it up so fast that I think that we're talking about the Uno reverse stinging you, but it's all just a bit fun, because you're not actually. This sounds like a bad thing, but you're not that invested. It's got this perfect balance of like, you're just having a bit of fun, and everyone knows you are, but then the stakes can get a little bit. Oh, okay, we're doing. I might do it.
That idea of being invested, and the time that you've sunk into something, and therefore. You've been emotionally attached to the outcome. I think is really important. And if you spent half an hour setting up a game, and then like an hour or two getting into the rhythm of a game, and then something bad happens, and you're like, it just doesn't sit. But with Uno, the badness happens within 5 minutes. We're on to the next game type thing. It's low stakes.
Low stakes. They do like loads of versions of it now. And one game that I would sort of play, there's a very similar vibe. I don't know if we played it together, but called Flip 7. Have you played Flip 7?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Flip 7 is this brilliant little party game. It's, in my experience, is basically always just a hit, really, at a night. I mean, it does depend on who you're playing with. You've got to have people who are a bit more into it than Uno, for example. But you can also draw people in because of the energy it gives off. Basically, it is pure push your luck, right? So, it plays with that. So you're effectively sticking or hitting, and you're being dealt one card. That's all what's happening. Someone's dealing you a card, and you have to say, I'm either going to stick with what I've got and hold my points, or hit me for another one, but I might go bust on that card. And then it brings in this lovely detail of like everyone's trying to mess with each other. Oh, you've got to go for it. You might even get a flip 7 if you kept going. What are the chances? You're not going to bust. And we're all trying to convince each other to do stuff. And there's this perfect level of tactical play, kind of. And if you can card count, well, you'll be doing great. But you're still, no one's taking that seriously. It's just a bit of fun. And then even if you're in a terrible place in that game and you're like bottomed out, all that does is push you to make bigger and bigger crazy plays, because you might just pull off the win just from doing ridiculous luck draws of like, well, I'm not going to win at this point, so yes, I will take another card, thanks. And it's like these big moments of like, oh my god, you just got 100 points. Yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, it sounds really good fun. Sounds like one to be played with a couple of beers as well.
Yeah, it's definitely like some party energy. Okay, so let's move on to our main topic of today, and that is, why buy board games when tabletop simulators exist? Which is quite a controversial title. And first off, I'll say it's clearly a bit rage baity, that title, but I do think that it gets into a great kind of, well, for me, self-affirming conversation about like what makes physical games so good and what the merits of digital tabletop simulators are. So yeah, you picked this title.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, which I love.
Well, I hope it's self-affirming for you, and you don't come out the end of this conversation kind of reflecting on your life today and being like, "What have I been doing with my time in board games?"
Yeah, imagine.
No, I picked it because I think it's one of those, interesting debates where there'll be kind of positives and negatives on both sides, and then kind of something in the middle as well between the two. And I think, it should make for an interesting conversation. And draw out some personal perceptions too. You can see probably what side of the debate. No, I'm not going to say if I was to pick a side, because I'm not, because I think there's space for both. Is that how I'm going to start out? But I know where my preference is in terms of what my lifestyle permits at the moment in terms of my way to get together with friends.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, for anyone who doesn't really know, and I'm sure anyone who would possibly listen to this would be, but, we're talking about TTS, Tabletop Simulator, and there's a few different ones that are like Tabletop Simulator, there's Tabletopia, Board Game Arena, to name sort of the big three. But these are basically platforms where you can just log in, one's on Steam, I think, and then you can start playing a game, and it's all just digital. So you're a little camera floating around. You can move cards around. It's all just 3D visuals, effectively, and some are 2D, in fact. But you do see quite a lot of conversation about the different things. I remember when COVID happened. I shouldn't use the C word, but when the thing happened, lots of people suddenly had to use it. There was a huge boom in all these virtual tabletops because there had to be. Suddenly you couldn't get together to play a game IRL, so that was that. And I heard loads of chatter from game channels saying about how much they hated it and they just thought it was awful. And I've played a lot of games on these simulators, and I'm kind of the same as you just said there. There's space for both of them, and if anything, I think that a lot of the time they can kind of there are definitely merits to both of them, and there's a time for them, right? Me and Martin play quite a lot on Tabletop Simulator because he's on the other side of London. He's even further on the other side of London than you are. And so it's just not realistic for us to play games. So the way we are going to still get that, a bit of social interaction, and we can play the games together, is we jump on a simulator and play it.
Like that convenience thing. I was reflecting on actually. Like it is about the ease by which you can just jump online, but also you're not burdening someone, or you're not being burdensome. And I think there's something about we are fortunate to live in households we share with others, and if we are bringing people in to play games or something, that has an impact on home life. And even if people are really supportive, you have to plan around it, book stuff in, etc. I suppose it's just that extra grit. And whilst I can happily retreat to my computer without affecting the rest of the household to kind of play stuff on Tabletop Simulator if I wanted to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't really considered that. Like, I've got that weekly game night, and Lauren's great about that. But you're right. Like, there's some nights where that can't happen because there's stuff going on or whatever it is. And I certainly couldn't just be playing games every single night and inviting people over every single night. That wouldn't be on.
We'd have to clean the house every day.
Gosh, imagine.
Just
I make people put a blindfold on before they get to the table, do they?
Yeah, just put large blinds around the table so they can't see the rest of the house. A tunnel to the toilet or something. But we're very fortunate to have someone like you kind of set that time aside, go to the effort of hosting, etc. Because I think it needs at least one person to do that, to bring people together. Otherwise, you don't carve out the time or the space to do it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, you're right. It is there can be a lot to playing games in terms of actually making it happen. And one thing that is undeniable is that tabletop simulators break down some of those sort of walls to make it so that it is a lot more accessible for people. I think that in terms of we don't need to get into a versus mode on it or whatever. I mean, we could do a pros cons list, but I think that ultimately the major part of playing a board game, a major part of what I enjoy it, is because I like to get away from screens. I spend a lot of my life looking at screens, so the idea of relaxing with physical pieces of card and paper and plastic and artwork that's on them, and then also talking with friends in real life, like that is obviously a huge part of board gaming to me. But then there is also the aspect of the game and just the game, like, and there's certainly something to be said for social interaction that's over the internet. It's not like we've for years played video games where we can't see each other apart from our little 3D avatars, normally holding guns or some sort of whatever.
Although, do you remember that we played online when we were in the same house?
Yes, obviously. Yeah, the ultimate.
The ultimate, we had the choice of seeing each other, but no, we chose to go virtual. We could literally hear each other from our respective rooms.
But could still, that's a LAN party. And those are great. True. I wouldn't take those away from anything.
Just building on your point there, like on the social aspect, I agree. I think there's something around, and maybe technology, with generative AI, which is probably a dirty word to use to some extent, will get us there. But I think there is something about being forced to go back to basics of sitting around and having the physical in front of you, so you have to use your imagination to do the rest. And having been like tabletop RPGs, massive Dungeons and Dragons fan, and spent many hours at university playing that. The imagination of my mind and how I would picture an event and how I would bring it to life, I think was really rich and rewarding. And that whilst I love digital games, you lose the ability to define how you want to see the world or how you interpret the world, because it's interpreted for you. And so there is something about when you're playing that board game, you can kind of create that narrative in your head more. That said, Tabletop Simulator doesn't stop you from doing that, but it's that kind of spectrum of digital media to then it gets to the point where it starts to give videos and interpreting a scene for you instead of you having your view on it. So I can see the benefit of trying to retain that
just that physicality of it.
Yeah,
and it's limited, right? It's limited to what it is, what's been on there, and the art can be wonderful, but it's still just here it is. It's like, totally.
And I feel like conversations also just flow, especially when you get more than two people. If you're physically around the table, it's so much easier to read people, not inadvertently interrupt them like I just did to you, and just have that more free-flowing conversation. I think that again is a benefit of being around the table together.
Yeah, I mean, nothing can really replace that kind of feel for me. Like that, that's what I want from that. But like we just said, both are valid. I would, if you told me, oh, well, you can never play another board game online with Martin, then I'd be like, oh, okay, well, that really sucks. Like, I would not. This is still a great option. And what I will say is that I've written a couple in the show notes here. We've written some like pluses, and I definitely would say, the main things as to what the real pros are. One, you can play games that aren't released yet, like that are on Kickstarter and just talking about being real. And before I put down my money, I can go, they often now will go, well, you can play it if you want. And they'll give me a little demo of the game, which is great because then I can play it. I can see how I feel about it. I can, and then I can fill in the rest of like, oh yeah, well, this will be brilliant if it was on the table, blah, blah, blah. Out of print games that are impossible to get hold of. Hey, loads of them, thousands of them are saved within this, and you can play them on that.
I was going to say that's wonderful, that digital archive concept. That these brilliant. Things haven't been lost to history. I hadn't appreciated that.
And not just that, but like you can play a game, and then fans have made expansions for them, and then you get to play that fan expansion without. Sometimes it can be quite costly to get a third-party fan expansion. You might not risk that it might be a bit pants, but you can just play it as quick as you want. When I've listened to podcasts and people talking, like designers talking about tabletop simulators, like what their point of view on it is, right? Who they've got the most skin in the game. They're the people who you hear arguments of, oh, it's going to take their jobs and no one's going to buy a board game if we've got these tabletop simulators, which in my opinion, of course, is nonsense because, and they seem to align with that because they are openly encouraging it. They're like, no, it's great because first off, the person who like that means that they can play test the game, they can iterate on the game as they're making it faster than they ever could before. They can have these playtest groups. Like I'm on a Discord with a few different publishers, and you can just jump into games and just straight away go into TTS or whatever one they've got. And then you're in playing the game and that's it. And they can just really quickly tell you all about it, play test it, and then they get all of the feedback on it right then and there. And they can even watch your session as an observer. And that's people from across the globe can all come in and do that. You've got an entire Discord with thousands of people of play testers you can just grab from. That could not have happened before these simulators. So that's just amazing for them anyway.
And can they, kind of show my ignorance here, but can they monetize their work on the TTS, etc., or does it all have to be like open source? Well, not open source license, but freely available.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So first off, Tabletop Simulator does have paid DLCs. Uno is one of them, in fact. But there is just this workshop that is effectively like a modding community of people who have just made them, and they're almost all of them are free. Yeah. But then you've got ones like Tabletopia and Board Game Arena, and I know that they do charge. They charge a fee and they give money to publishers. So, but then they offer some different stuff on that. They kind of Tabletop Simulator is a bit more like I don't want to say the Wild West, but it's a bit more you do your own thing, and it might be a bit janky, and it might be not always. Sometimes, a lot of the time, it's really decent versions being made officially for the publisher, but it also is some random stuff on there that you've kind of. It's kind of like going through, I don't know, TK Maxx or something. There are some good deals in there. There's some good clothes, but you've got to wade through a lot of crap.
Wade through it, yeah.
Yeah. Highly relatable material for anyone outside of England listening to talk about TK Maxx.
I think there's TJ Maxx overseas.
Oh, yes. It's TJ
Maxx, is that right? Yeah, talking of wading through stuff, I think on that point, one of the concepts about the Tabletop Simulator-esque accessibility is really useful when it comes to someone like myself, who, when I generally play games with you or others, it's my first time playing them. I'm not familiar with the rules. I think Tabletop Simulator reduces the need for you to explain rules to me for 45 minutes before we even start. We're not wading through having to set the game up for an hour sometimes. And also, there are guardrails there for me when making moves that I'm not necessarily, depending on how well they're coded, I'm not going to make mistakes, or I'm not going to do something that's an illegal move, because
for sure.
the mechanics stop me. And so it's a really good way, I think, for me to first play a game. And my first, and you've got it, and I'd love to play it again, but I remember Watergate was the first game we played on TTS.
Oh yeah, we did play that. Yeah,
and I adored it.
great little game.
And going to your point about you can play it, but it doesn't stop you then wanting to play it in real life, and I completely agree.
Yeah, if anything, I would say, because you do, like I said, you hear people talking about, oh, why would you get them? Like, they're bad for the industry. They mean that people don't buy it. Oh, if they play it on there, they're not going to buy it in real life. And my own personal experience, anecdotally anyway, is the exact opposite. First off, it's either I wasn't going to buy the game, and then I played it on there and went, oh, now I am buying it. Like it's only ever really worked that way, that I've been thinking about buying a game and then it solidified the purchase, or I've played it on there, no interest, but then thought, oh well, I can spin it up. Not no interest, but not on the fence about whether or not I was going to buy it in real life, but thought this will be a nice one to spin up. And then I've went out of my way to go buy it in the physical world because I want to play it around a table downstairs, So it definitely doesn't put me off.
On that point, then, kind of taking that theme, are board games too expensive? Because, is there, because some of the things you've said there about taking, you didn't say taking risk, but you're minimizing the risk by playing something online before you actually commit your dollar to actually buying it. And some of these board games are really expensive, and for good reason, I think, because they're beautiful, they're physical products, and your board game shelf is a work of art in and of itself. And and I hope that when you're purchasing these things, all the relevant people that have contributed are getting the right cut, and that's where the money is going. But they are expensive, and they're a big thing to take a risk on.
I totally agree. And just to come back, like, they are expensive. Whether or not they're too expensive, obviously, is subjective to how much you enjoy them, how much you play them, right? Like, I could buy a £200 game, but if I pay it 200 times, then it's suddenly a great value proposition. But you are right that there certainly is something there where they can be expensive. The big thing here, I'd say, is that unlike a lot of other products, and this depends on the board game, but a lot of these big expensive games, they'll be on Kickstarter, let's say, and you're effectively pre-ordering them. A pre-order that can go away at any moment, but a pre-order that they can go,
we've
actually,
all been
thanks
burnt
for
there.
your money, but we've got money. But now effectively it is like this pre-order store, and there's two things there. One is that means that without something like a tabletop simulator, you can't play that game, so you don't actually, you're purely trusting, and that's where I would say maybe they are too expensive, is that you're completely and totally trusting in the pedigree of that designer, in how good the Kickstarter layout is, how much they can kind of convince you now, how much the sales pitch convinces you. A lot of them now will come out with like, here's the rules and here's a TTS and like a tabletop simulator, and that's great because then you can kind of have a little look. I will say I have backed a lot more games just based on the pedigree of, pedigree is probably the wrong word, the back catalogue, and all the releases, their previous releases that they have brought out, that I will judge mainly on that. There's a lot of games that I've bought on Kickstarter just because I'm like, right, I love Pandemic, Matt Leacock's making this one, I think that means it's probably going to be for me. And then if a board game reviewer that I enjoy and I sort of align my taste with says, hey, it's just like this game that you love, Andy, then I'll be like, right, nice one. I will stake my bet on that. But you are right, it is risk. And these tabletop simulators can help me mitigate some of that risk, I would say. In terms of, are they too expensive? That's a whole nother podcast. But I would say that unless you're talking about Asmodee or Hasbro, like the big players in the industry, none of these people are rich. Like from every single thing I've seen, even people like Jamie Stegmaier, who I'm sure is well off, but they're just not in it for this big money moves. They're not that type of people, right? That's why loads of them went under as soon as there was a problem with shipping after COVID and all that sort of stuff, because they're all working on pretty thin margins. So, if we're talking about, what's too expensive, what isn't, there are definitely games where I've thought that doesn't need to be that expensive, but people are so into buying minis that you've blimped this thing up to be a huge board game just because it's got some minis in it, but they could have just been card, or they could have just been presented in a different way because the core of the game is much simpler. Does that make
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
But that's a whole different thing. One thing I'll just say about that I really love about BGA, Board Game Arena in particular, and I suppose any of these sims, is that you can do asynchronous play. So if we're talking about really time poor, then you can basically log in. I can do my move. I can message you, or it will message you and say, "Oh, Andy's done his move." And then you can log in when it pleases you. Sometimes you can kind of set a timer on it. It's like, you've got 24 hours to do your response move. And that's brilliant. You can play a game. Yes, it will take you longer, but it means you get to have that little nudge, a little pebble with your mate that you're like, "Oh, I did this move," and that's fun. It's a fun way to play a game.
You've
that you couldn't
really
normally do.
unlocked a memory for me there. I remember like web-based asynchronous grand strategy games that I used to play that were like basically block boxes. You'd put numbers in based on how many troops you've got and where you want to invest time and effort. I can't remember
Amazing.
the actual
We should look
name.
one of those up. We should.
Yeah, no, but I don't want to go down that road again. It
Yeah, sure.
consumes you. It consumes
Okay.
you. 2 a.m. in the morning waiting for the player over in the States to make their move so you can
Amazing.
respond. I used to get trampled very quickly all the time. But yeah, asynchronous play. You could do that with Civilization as well, actually.
Yeah, that's cool. See, that kind of stuff's just great. And yeah, and saving the game. You mentioned earlier about coding, like the coding of the mod itself. I mean, I've just been playing Star Wars Rebellion with Martin. That's the thing that we're playing at the moment. And we're learning the game as well. And like you're saying, it's putting these wonderful guardrails on, because whoever's modded this thing is just like, whoever's coded it is unbelievable. It's a huge game with lots of tiny minis. I'm talking hundreds. And while it is wonderful to see it in person, to quickly spin up a game and get playing and learn, it's amazing for that, because you can just go, right. And one thing actually it's just come to mind is, very often when I'm learning a game, I will open up TTS if there's a version of it on there, and I'll have the rule book or the video to teach me how to play it, and I will have that board state there just so I can see all the materials without having to take up the whole table downstairs and get the whole game out. I can just sort of do it very quickly on there, and that stuff's just great. It's just really great.
I do wonder whether we'll see really good implementations of the virtual and physical coming together, where you all gather physically, but your tabletop is a virtual board.
Yes, I've seen like AR kind of stuff. I've seen there was like maybe there was a Kickstarter for that. I remember seeing something where you could effectively play where you're remote playing, but you both see the same board in front of you. Like, it would be pretty cool. I mean, if it would, again, it still wouldn't replace the physical, but it would mean that this would open up into something completely different, right? It would be incredible.
Yeah, I think like Microsoft were doing it with Minecraft and exploring it with some of their kind of augmented reality headsets.
Yes.
And I know Nintendo have done something recently with Mario, their Mario Kart RC cars, where they've got a camera on and they like project, or not project, but if you're looking through the camera, it's kind of colouring in the world around them, or something like that, where it's just,
I've seen that.
Something that brings that together.
That would
could
be
be
really
interesting.
cool. Yeah, definitely. I've seen ones where you can do it where you can both have a chessboard, like talking about async play. You can both have a chessboard, and if I move a piece, it moves it on your board. And it reminded me of that kind of quantum theory, like I'm talking about Mass Effect right now, and quantum, but it's like the idea of they're inexorably linked to these two chessboards, and if one moves, the other one moves. And that's got guardrails too, because if you do an illegal move, it reshuffles them to before you did the illegal move.
That's pretty
it's
cool.
really clever.
Yeah.
But that kind of stuff's great. But yeah, I think you're right. I think if you're time poor, if you don't have the space for it, or your lifestyle isn't conducive with, hey, let's have loads of people over and play a board game, that's not everyone can do that. Not everyone can also carve out the time to go to another space, go to the bar down the road or whatever it is. And realistically, a lot of people talk about that as an option, but what games are you playing? Because if you're going to turn up with Uno or Flip 7, fine, but you'd need to go to a board game cafe if you were going to break out Sniper Elite, whatever one we played when we went to drafts.
Yeah.
You can't break out Twilight Imperium at
your local Weatherspoons. Yeah.
No.
I think you get some odd looks, to be fair.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I think that's there's so much to it. Gosh, I mean, I could keep talking about this forever, but we probably should wrap it up. So any final thoughts on TTRPGs but why board games when tabletop simulators exist?
But I think because they're different, right? It's, they're horses for courses. And it's not just different, they're complementary too. I think that's what's come out of the conversation today, and some of the things I hadn't thought of, but they are really complementary, both for players and designers. So,
designers, it seems to be. Whenever I hear anything, it's like they love them because, and you can imagine that, right? Imagine the process of having to go, oh, this card doesn't really work. Let's iterate. I'll just do it now. All right, I've done it. Right, keep playing. You can just spin up your spreadsheet of cards and port them straight into a TTS, and then you've just done it. And and it is another revenue stream for some. Like I say, some they're paid content. On Board Game Arena, I know you get a subscription, and they all look great. All the games are so well presented. There's another thing I just thought of. I mean, I love it. It's all part of it. But I am very fortunate to have, I mean, I have terrible eyesight, but I have correction for my eyesight. I can read things across the other side of the table. Some people aren't fortunate enough to be like that. We're talking about these the simulators. I can just hold my mouse over any card on any part of the board. First off, I can float in this virtual world and just get myself right down to any part of the board, even if it's on the other side of the table. But I can also just hold, I know in TTS anyway, you mouse over, hold Alt, and it puts that card straight in front of your face. I can see every rule. I can see the rule book and everyone can look at the rule book at the same time. All those kinds of things. That's opening it up accessibility-wise to a whole bunch of people who couldn't necessarily play as easily with the physical board game, which is great.
Such a good point. Yeah, and no doubt some of the people will have like additional accessibility programs they can lay over the top of TTS, etc. Sure. Although your ability to read cards from across the table does make me think you have been cheating. So good to know for future reference.
You're not under them.
Although, well, it's funny you say that because I can't remember what video game it is now, but there's a camera trick you can do where actually, because of the way the assets sit, you can actually or move the player in such a way the camera gets underneath. You can see their cards on the table because they're not actually on there; they're hovering slightly. So. Maybe that is the downside of digital games, the ability to manipulate them.
Love that. Okay, well, I think that's a good tie off for that conversation. But I think we could probably come back to that. That's great. I kind of want to do some async play between us. I think that would be fun. We could do some of that. But now let's move over to the final segment, the Game Master's Mailbag. Okay, the Game Master's Mailbag. Here we go. I realised that I should probably have like a thing. Like I kind of get a bag and go like, ooh, and pull from the bag.
Who have we got this week? Yeah.
It's a podcast. Everyone loves to see things on a listening podcast. So this week, the Game Master's Mailbag, is that I have this wonderful questionnaire that people can fill in, and they come through to me, and me and my guest will run through the questions pick out some, and then we're going to suggest a game that we think they might like. And that's that.
From my repertoire of Monopoly and Uno. Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Yeah. But yes, so this one is from Ben D, who you know, IRL.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Yes, lovely chap. Well, he's
really
written
nice.
in and he said, so I'll just read out some of the answers that he's put in. I might not do all of them, but when he said, the question was, which best sums up your vibe? And I put in like tons of different things they could click through. And he's put music lover. Okay. And then he said the last board game that he enjoyed playing was Slay the Spire.
Oh.
I don't know.
Is that relatively recent? The board game iteration of Slay the Spire, has that been out for a while now?
Yeah. I don't think he actually means he means the digital version, because I was just chatting to him about the board game and he hasn't played it yet. So, but wait, maybe he has now. Maybe he just got it. I can't remember. He just had a birthday, so it might be that he's got it now. But he was very keen on getting it.
Should just pick something that's both a board game and a digital game, so to cover all bases. Yeah.
Cover all bases.
Uno.
Yeah. Slay the Spire. Uno. He's just if he has, then he must have just got it. But yeah, Slay the Spire, amazing board game, and I know that he has played a lot of the original game. He loves deck building. He loves all that jazz. So yeah, he's into that. So that's definitely something we'll consider. The question is, he's in the Crystal Maze. What kind of challenge does he ask for? And he said a skill challenge. All right.
Nice. Hear the theme tune now.
Yes.
So good.
I put on there, choose your universe. And I put a bunch of different, IP universes, Star Trek and Star Wars and all the others, all the other not important ones.
Lesser.
And he's put Lord of the Rings. So fantasy, loves all that.
I always did like Ben. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Fantasy, and his favorite video game, he said, is Final Fantasy VII of all time. But this week it's Dead Cell. That's a roguelike platformer, I think. I've never actually played it. I remember watching it.
I remember when we went to EGX.
Yeah, that's when I remember seeing it.
Yeah,
and it looked great.
Before it really released, and it looked great, and there's a real buzz about it. And I think we got early ability to play it. I haven't played it since.
Yeah, because the devs were talking to us about how it was so nice, the conversation. I remember him talking about the flames that are coming off the character and how they have, I've forgotten what he called it, but it was like they actually cast light realistically in the game. And so it didn't matter where you put it. It was like wherever you put this light. And I thought now that's probably commonplace for developers, but at the time, this is a decade ago, he was like, it's so cool that we've managed to figure it out. But yeah, he leans towards the chaotic. He is 100%, 10 out of 10 on board for betraying his friends or being betrayed by his friends in a video game or in a board game, I should say. I've asked the question, have you got any other things that you deem useful to finding your perfect game? And he said it's mood dependent, kind of is what games he kind of wants, and the game complexity, and does it have miniatures? And I know that I think he quite likes miniatures and he doesn't want it to be crazy difficult. So those are our that's what we're going off of. Shall I go first, or do you want to go first?
I had an idea, but actually listening to this, you go first. I'm ruminating. Yeah.
Okay, you can ruminate. So I think, and I'm actually questioning now. I've written this down. I'm about to say it. I feel like I might have mentioned this game before, maybe even for the Mailbag. So maybe I'll have to change this. But
are you sponsored by?
Yeah, sponsored by Clank, the board game. I wish. Clank is just such a great game, and it's kind of on the brain because I played it recently and had a really good time with it again. And they have this legacy version, which is like D&D. It's like the official D&D tie-in called Acquisitions Incorporated, and I just think that Ben would enjoy it because you've got that fantasy element to it, like with the Lord of the Rings. It's very chaotic and fun, and it's basically made by this guy called Paul Denton. He designed it. He also did Dune Imperium, which is like won loads of awards, was like top of the list for loads of people because of its amazing deck building. And you deck build in Clank, but it's a bit more whimsical and fun. But it still has at its core a very, very good game designer making a really good deck builder. So I just think he'd enjoy it. It's just really good fun. It's competitive, sort of, fun-loving fantasy deck building game about trying to do a heist for a dungeon, basically. And it's good. And you're in like I said, you're competitive, but it's not too. There's no take that or gotcha. There's no sort of meanness to it. You're effectively putting these clanks, cubes into a bag that as you're bumbling around this and trying to get down this into the dungeon, you're making more noise. And then the more clanks you've done, the more noise you've made. You might have been playing some powerful cards to do it, but then you've got more chance of being discovered by the big bad. So that's the kind of vibe. But yeah, it's great fun. I can't remember if you've ever played it.
I don't think I have. I think you've described it to me. It sounds familiar, but I don't think I've played it. It sounds like one I would enjoy.
Okay.
Oh, maybe we played it on
I had it a long time. I've got the in space version.
Did we play it on TTS?
Maybe.
Sounds familiar.
Well, we'll have a look. I've probably got my old save file. We can load it back up.
Indeed.
We'll go straight back in where we were.
I think we played it with Matt.
Oh, we did play Dune Imperium with Matt, for sure.
Oh, maybe.
I'll have a look. Yeah. Anyway, so what you're ruminating?
Well, so originally I, like when you said Slay the Spire, Lord of the Rings, from my limited repertoire, I was thinking Magic the Gathering. That fantasy theme, card-based action. I could see him really getting into that. The beautiful artwork on the cards and kind of the stories on each of them.
They've even got a Lord of the Rings set, so he could just and a Final Fantasy one. He loves Final Fantasy. There's a whole Final Fantasy set. So that could be a good shout.
There you go, slam dunk, first time on the show. Even though I never knew any of that, so I'm glad you've got knowledge. But then, as we were going through, it felt like he was describing a D&D player card. Chaotic, that's his alignment. He's got numbers on there, 10 out of 10. Could be his armor value. And he loves the miniature, and I have very fond memories of my miniature of what was effectively my Aragorn / Strider copycat of Solo Lantier.
Is that there?
My D&D character who went for a massive. You got him there.
He's right here.
There he is.
He's right there.
There he is, and went for a massive campaign, and the miniatures really helped bring it to life. And I just, like that chaotic energy. There's no better way to live that out than in something you're doing live with a games master that has to react to whatever crazy shit you want to pull off. And there's something quite fun about, yes, roles will always limit what you can do and potential success of it, but literally there are no rules.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Yeah, man. I think you smashed it there. I actually think he would love D&D. I think he would. I was going to suggest maybe because I've got Dragonheart. I've just got the Dragonheart new RPG book, and I was going to say, it's a good time that I could bring that down and show it. But actually, I think Ben would really enjoy specifically D&D because I know he likes his tactical combat and stuff. But D&D, probably 4th edition, but all of it really is the most sort of combat focused. Obviously, you can tell amazing stories in it, but it ultimately has tactical combat at its core.
Yeah.
You have all these very inventive ways. Most of the rulebook is about, how you can use offensive spells and abilities. And I mean, more so than ever now, as it leaned towards the balance is more story as well, of course. But yeah, I think he would really get a kick out of either playing Baldur's Gate 3 or definitely playing the actual tabletop RPG. Yeah, I think he'd love that, and I think he'd love it more. I do wonder whether or not, because actually, truth be told, a couple of years ago, I played the Star Wars RPG with him and Matt.
I was going to ask whether you've played it with him, because whilst it's different lore and theme, did he love the experience? Because that's what I really loved, and you describe it, so I'm still in your words here. Really loved about the Star Wars RPG was that you have that instantly recognizable universe and frame of reference that you can conjure up. Now with his love of Lord of the Rings, clearly he will have that for D&D to some extent, other than some of the creatures. But I think that that kind of visual, that aid in terms of visualizing it and kind of knowing how it works based on the knowing Star Wars.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's a really accessible one. It's great. We had lots of good fun on that.
Oh, we had so much fun.
It's a really good system.
I still remember, and I'm talking to the other guys about it too, like I can still remember evenings, not just the evening of us playing, but the adventures that we went on and scenarios that happened. That's over a decade ago we were playing that, and I still remember them like vividly, like there were adventures or like really good films that I've seen. Like it's a great game. Really
I fondly remember Hulu Taka and his fondness for female Wookiees.
Yes, of course. Maybe that's a different podcast. That's the after show.
That's the after. Yeah.
But yeah, no, great shout. That's a great one. I really like that. Yeah, I mean, now we're talking about what's a board game. Is a TTRPG a board game? But yes, I think so. So it's all the same, isn't it?
Yeah, you can put a board down. There's, there are boards available to simulate different geographies, and yeah.
That's definitely something that I'd love to get back into. I've researched a whole bunch. I've actually got over there, so I can't see it as a book in the way, but Mothership, which is a sort of a sci-fi horror game. It's kind of like Aliens, same as what we just said. If you tell people, hey, this is a sci-fi horror romp, right? You're in the middle of a slasher film, or whatever, they can immediately identify with like, okay, I get it. I'm not supposed to be that good at surviving, and I'm not supposed to be, but it flips this sort of, a lot of the time D&D and things like that are quite a power fantasy, right? They're about like you being these heroic characters. Well, in Mothership, you're probably going to die or go insane or whatever's going to happen to you. You might betray everyone else or be a real dirtbag, and that's just part of the film that you're watching, and you're all playing your part within it. And it's just really fun, basically, really fun system, that what I've read of it. So I definitely want to play some of that for sure.
Well, remind me if we ever play that game, I'm going to be the Caucasian, well-paid film star that is the lead character, because they will never die.
Yes, of course. Yeah, of course. So unless we subvert that. Anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. Which actually is another topic for another day. But I've really enjoyed the fact that like Game of Thrones did. Oh God, wait! I don't want to give any.
Wait, spoilers for what? Spoilers for
Game of Thrones. I was going to say, but that's fine.
We can probably be fine. That's probably
fine. Like Sean Bean, right? First season, you think, well, it's fine. It's Sean Bean. It's not, and they did.
They did it. They did that.
It's great. Yeah.
Do you remember Spooks? They did that in Spooks. Do you remember that?
Was she famous? Was she a big star?
Yeah, they did. This famous person was in all the trailers, and then it was like this massive deal that she was.
She the
in
Deep
this
Fat
show.
Fryer one.
Yeah, it was the Deep Fat Fryer one.
Wow.
Oh gosh, what a subject to talk about.
What a way to knock recruitment for UK Secret Services.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, there was actually a huge boost in recruitment apparently after they did the show. But yeah.
Each their own, the Deep Fat Fries, but there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, this is probably where we should wrap up. But thanks so much for chatting to me. That was really fun.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was great. I really like delving into this stuff with you. And yeah, I feel like in the course of that conversation, there's like 2 other podcasts we could do straight away off the back.
Can I add another one?
Yeah.
Just sorry, I know we're wrapping up, but you were naming individuals when talking about board games, and like pre-ordering, etc. It just made me think of authors, and I think there's something there where like big studios making computer games, are very quite abstract compared to the individuals that you are following because you know their craft, etc. So maybe there's something there we can unpick in a future discussion.
Yeah, cool. Love that. All right. Well, thanks very much, mate. And I'll speak to you next time.
Take care, buddy. Speak soon. Bye.